Right, hello, welcome to the first of hopefully many podcasts. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it is. I think, Adam, you've done a few podcasts before. You've been guests on people's podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's our first time doing it. Just so everyone knows who everyone is, I'm Evan. In the Castle shirt is Adam. In this lovely woolly, what is it, half zip?
Very comfortable half zip, thank you.
Is Kieran. Basically we're going to have a conversation today about the transfers this summer. In particular, we're going to both pick 3 busts and 3 what we think are bargains from this summer's transfers, because it's based on, transfer value, how they're going to do in the season, etc., etc. We'll have got some, rules about picking our 3. Within our bargains, we're limited to 1 free transfer. Otherwise, we'd all just pick PSG's transfers for this summer, let's be honest, because they've probably got the best bargains of everyone. There's no real limitations for busts. Pick whoever you want. It can be a free transfer, whatever, just if you think it's not so great business for the club. So to get us started, we'll start with Adam. You're going to do your 3 busts to start with, aren't we?
Yeah. So for our first bust, I actually went for PSG signing. I went for Hakimi. Yes, he's a good signing. Of course, had a great season in Milan last year. Obviously won the Serie A, but I just don't think they need him, I'll be honest. They spent about £54 million on him. He's a fantastic footballer, but do PSG really need him? Probably not. So that's kind of why I put him in there. But obviously, it was quite early signing for PSG to make. So obviously, you couldn't anticipate getting players like Messi in. But still, though, I mean, PSG, yes, they were disappointing in the league last year, but they still got a pretty good squad. I just think £54 million for him is just, you could have spent it elsewhere, really. So for me, that's why I put him in. But I do think he will be a good signing. I just don't think he's worth the money, probably. So that's why I went with him with the first one. Second one I went with Adam Armstrong. Was of course going to Southampton literally today for about £15 million. I don't rate him one bit. He's got no experience in the Premier League, and considering Southampton go to Danny Ings needs someone that's probably proven to come in and be a replacement. He's not going to be that guy. I know Chance had a class season last year, but really, though, I felt like they should have got with someone that actually had played in the Premier League before. And for me, Adam Armstrong, for Newcastle deal, we got about £5 million because I sat on clothes for him, but really, though, for Southampton, I just don't think he's going to have a good season. I think for £15 million, he's going to be a bit of a bust. And last one I went with was Anthony. Again, obviously on loan at Leipzig last season. Had a good time for him, but again, £15 million. I just don't think he's worth £50 million. I'll be completely honest, but I think Man City definitely got the better of the deal in there. But again, it's quite hard to pick these sort of players. I think most of the deals in the window have been pretty good, to be fair. So that's kind of why I went with a couple of odd ones in there, but yeah, that's the 3 I went with personally. I know obviously they've got different players to me.
Yeah, well, I know. For starters, I think I'm gonna have to. I'll kick Amy with the fee. I can get why you'd argue that one, because that is a lot of money for a player who we don't like. He's weird because is he a wing back? Is he a full back? Is he a winger? Like, he's good at all positions. You could argue, but where's his best position? I think last season for Inter, with a back 3 playing wing back is probably his best position. Like obviously him and Ashley Young interchanging depending on fitness and stuff. He's a great player, talented wise, technically great. And I think unfortunately for a player like that in this market, you've got to pay that. Like, let's be honest, if you're going to sell someone like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's not the same player, because I'd say Hakimi's even faster, even more like dynamic, you're going to pay stupid money. Like, if Trent was to be sold, if Harry Maguire's worth 80 million, Trent is easily going to be the most expensive defender in history. Do you know what I mean? So if you're that kind of defender who can attack and defend equally as well, you're going to pay a lot of money. You're going to pay a premium. Like, think of Dani Alves in the modern market, how much he'd sell for. Way more than Hakimi. So I've got to argue with the Hakimi one. That's the one I don't know if I'll argue it the most, but definitely the Hakimi one is like the one that I will agree with the transfer fee. It's stupidly high, but I've got to argue with the talent. He's immensely talented and he offers both. And PSG need that more in defence. I think defence is probably PSG's weakest element now. Even though they have signed Ramos, I still say it's their weakest.
Yeah, well, of course, that's obviously what we're here to argue with each other. But yeah, for me, like, we just don't need a Hakimi. Like, they've got such a good squad already. They're 3 back and they'll still walk the league. Yes, the Champions League's obviously what they're going to be looking for. But with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, the best probably world 3 potentially of all time. We'll see how it goes. But obviously, that's up for debate. But I just honestly don't think the player need him. I think I can get probably a player that's half decent for about half the price, and obviously probably not be as good as Hakimi. But listen, you don't need him. Like, you honestly do not need him. That's my opinion now.
Well, see, this is part of my argument as well. Florenzi was. Do you know how much? Like, Roma wanted 34 million for Florenzi, who was on loan last season. He did a similar role to Hakimi, attacking and defending. But Florenzi is he 30 now? Yeah, 29, 30, and Hakimi's 24. I think 24, 25. Isn't he? Yeah,
Yeah,
he's young. He's young. Is the point. So I think 60 million when you could have paid 34 for Florenzi. What was 54 in the end? That's still cheap to me. Not cheap. It's not cheap, but I think that's an okay money. You're going to pay that in this market for Hakimi. I think you are. I think unfortunately that's what you got to pay, and I still think you'll do dividends and you'll be good for them. What do you think on Hakimi then, Millsy?
I just think it just screams what's wrong with modern football.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, I do agree.
54 million for a fullback, which, right, you've just said Florenzi's 29, 30. They don't need another fullback. They don't need him. It's modern football. It's all about signing somebody before somebody else can, and they've exploited the fact that Inter's in the position they are financially.
Yeah, I'm going to mention that as part of my thing, but Inter are in a really bad position, and that's that baffles us about a lot of their sales, how much they're selling them for, even though they're a selling club at the moment because they need to make money.
I don't know. I just think Hakimi's, well, I can't say I've watched him a lot, but what I have watched of him, he seems like a decent player, but I don't know. I just think it's a bit ludicrous, really. So I kind of agree with Adam that it might be a bust.
Yeah, well, the one I've really got to argue with when it comes to Adam is Angelino. For 15 million, he's been fantastic for them. I think he got he was like top assistant defender in the Bundesliga last year, and the season before I think he got at least 4 or 5 assists in a season for them. And for 15 million, I think that's a bargain. As I say, if Hakimi is worth 60 million, Angelino I would say is not too far off him in terms of that wing back role. Yeah, he was not great for City, but that was for City. Maybe the Bundesliga suits him, and he's been way better for Leipzig. But then Nagelsmann, he was really good. So genuinely, I think Angelino's probably a bargain. In my opinion, I'd say he's a bargain, not a bust. For that much money, paying for Angelino and what he gives to a team with assists and going back and forth and playing, from the back, especially with Leipzig. Obviously, they have to change that system now. I think with losing, that I think they've lost all 3 of their centre halves now. They lost obviously Upamecano and they've lost Konate and might have lost another one as well. So I think maybe they need to change that system and Angelino might not fit. But I just think he's a bargain personally.
You think? I think they could have gone for a lot less. Man City never ever going to play Angelino again. So for me, the Crystal could have got a really good deal for him. Again, £50 million. It's not like a massive amount of money. Like if it's a bust, then okay, you're not going to awful amount of money. But still, I still think it's just one of those sort of players that's just going to go under the radar. I don't think many people are going to talk about him next year. Again, I think £50 million you could have gotten for less. I'll be completely honest, but. Again, I mean, when you're going to go for yours, it's probably going to argue with you quite a bit because I can't see many busts this season. I think the signings so far, most of them have been pretty good. So that's why I've kind of just stuck one in there.
I think what we're seeing is because of COVID and because of people losing money, a lot of teams are being way more reserved in the market. They're doing all their research. They're double check. They're not going to just throw £20 million away this summer because of the financial issues every club's going through. We're seeing what's going on in a lot of clubs, and they can't afford to do it this summer. If they're going to buy, they've got to buy well or buy cheap. They can't spend loads of money. So I see what you mean. Like they probably could have drove a harder bargain. Right. Any word on Armstrong, or are we agreeing on Armstrong? What's the word on Armstrong? What do you think, Millsy?
Well, I've watched him a lot last year in the Championship. He's the sort of striker that needs to play up front with somebody. And Southampton typically, I know they've just signed a young striker on loan from Chelsea today. Is it Jora? I think his name.
Boria. He's Albanian. Actually, he gets mentioned as part of my thing. So I'll go and look at him more in a bit. But yeah, they've just signed him on loan.
So maybe it might be a case of they're going to change systems to play over 2 up front. But if Armstrong is signed to directly replace Ings as a lone striker, I think he'll really struggle because he likes to run in behind. He's not someone that can play off somebody. Don't
they change that? I know they change often, but they do play 4-4-2 sometimes, don't they? Because we're playing 4-4-2. Adams and Ings were top at one point.
I know. I've seen that, and then they changed to a back 3, and they played a 3-4-2-1 or whatever variant of it is. And they were playing, is it Obafemi and Redmond, I think, as the 2 sort of players off.
Well, they're selling Obafemi, aren't they? Birmingham are interested, and it looks like there'll be a deal struck there. There's Blackburn or Birmingham. One of the two. I think basically there's talks about Obafemi going the other way, but it'd be a separate deal. So Blackburn
Yeah.
will sign him for 5-6 million, and it'll be a separate deal. Which I think is okay business for Blackburn. I think over time he's a decent striker. He's still young, but I think they'll probably revert back to a 4-4-2. I can see Hasenhuttl doing that with Adams and Armstrong up top, and I think that could be a good little part. You don't know, as you say, he's not experienced, but it could be a good little partnership.
One thing I do know about him is he's prone to a lot of injuries. And Southampton aren't the biggest squad to cover.
Yeah.
Cover if he gets injured.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean on that one. But I think that's why they're saying that that Chelsea striker on loan, because they need that kind of cover. But you even do look at Southampton's transfers; they haven't really got much cover, and that's what they needed. That was their issue last season: injuries. People getting injured, and they couldn't really cover them as well. That starting 11 was quite strong, but it was when they had injuries and stuff. The youngsters they were bringing in to replace them just weren't good enough. So, do you want to go on to your three then, Kieran? Your three busts.
Do you want us to start with the controversial one?
Go on. Yeah, we'll let you get through all three, and then we'll pick it apart. But go on, start with the controversial one.
Okay. He has just recently signed for Manchester City for 100 million. I think one of the busts of the season will be Jack Grealish.
Fair.
And the reason because of that, or do you want us to say the other two first? Or?
No, just go on. You can allude on to Grealish a bit more if you want.
In that Villa team, he is the focal point. The team is built around having him on the left channel to be able to cut inside with Matt Target on the overlap. At Man City, he's going to play against teams that play a low block, are going to defend deep. So he's going to have to, if he's going to come inside, he's going to have De Bruyne or Gundogan, whoever's playing in midfield, to drop off and give him space. But in Man City, De Bruyne's the best player, so I can't see De Bruyne giving way for Grealish. And then we've also seen that Pep played Sterling for 2.5, 3 years as his main player, and he has a bad dip in form and he's out of the squad completely. Seen the same with John Stones. I think if Grealish doesn't hit the ground running, he's going to quickly struggle to get back into the team. And there's just something telling us that he's going to struggle. Because he's not going to play in the left channel, I don't think. I think Pep wants to sign him to play as an 8. And he's very good at running with the ball, but as an 8, he's going to have to be good at receiving the ball on the half turn. And I'm not sure if he's capable of doing that yet.
Yeah, especially with that big fee.
Could, but for next season, I think it'd be a bust.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I was thinking something similar. I think Grealish will take a bit of time to get running. The only reason I didn't put him as a bust on mine, I targeted it. The only reason I didn't put him a bust on mine is purely because I just thought at the end of the day, it's pure talent. As long as it can get him playing well, there's no doubt he'd be the best player. Well, not the best, but one of the best players in the league. We've seen it. He has got that bit of magic that you do see with De Bruyne. So I think it'd be perfect for him to play with De Bruyne, really. And I know he's a bit more attacking than De Bruyne, I'd probably say. He's a bit more of a forward than De Bruyne, but still, I'd say playing under De Bruyne will do him a lot of good. And hopefully, for England as well, it'll just make him even better. Because you could just imagine Phil Foden and Grealish playing in that same team together and then playing for England together. It's the stuff of dreams for an England fan.
Where do you think Grealish was going to fit in at City? Which position do you think he's going to play? Is he going to play
no,
left,
this
or
is
is he going to play as an 8?
Mm-hmm. I think it'll depend on injuries and stuff as well, because Mahrez is playing phenomenally when he's been playing. So I don't think you'll drop Mahrez. I had the same thought. You'll start Mahrez and Foden on the wings, I think. The striker is the position for me for City that I had no clue they're going to start if they don't get Kane. If they get Kane, Kane's starting. That's easy. But if they don't get Kane, which is a possibility, I think it's a much stronger possibility than people realise. But yeah, Jesus, he's still a good striker, but I don't know. Guardiola seems not to be convinced by him. So
I think De Bruyne as a false 9 might be where he would go. But if that was the case, and you played De Bruyne as a false 9, and Bernardo Silva rumoured to leave, does that mean Grealish plays alongside Gundogan? The two of them
he's not centre mid. No, he's not
defensively
centre mid. Nah, he's definitely not centre mid. I'll agree with you on that one. He's not defensive enough to play centre mid. He's not that kind of mind. He works hard in the attack, but he's not the kind of guy to track back loads. So no, I don't see him playing centre mid, as you say. I do think basically what it'll be is between him, Mahrez, and Foden will fight for those 2 starting winger spots, and I think Foden will more or less always be starting because he can play left or right. Mahrez is, exclusively on the right, and Grealish is on the left. So it will be between Mahrez and Grealish who starts, in my opinion. And that battle in the first couple of weeks, who plays better, will probably dictate Grealish's season.
I would agree with that.
So who's the second one?
I also had a deal which is currently going on at the minute, but
Mhm.
the fees agreed. Tammy Abraham to Roma.
Oh, you think bust, eh?
I do.
34 million, isn't it?
The reason for that, typically, a Jose Mourinho striker fits what Abraham is, a bigger target man. Somebody that can link up the play. Like you see him with Drogba, Lukaku, regardless if you think he was good at Man U or not.
It's what he did.
That's that fit of striker. I don't know. I feel like Mourinho, as much as I think he's been a good manager, I think it's time he did try and change. And I think Tammy Abraham is being modelled to be like Kane, as in Kane is the sort of player that can drop deep and pass the ball off, as we've seen at Spurs, and he had Son running beyond him. I think he's trying to sign a striker that would fit that sort of model, but I don't think Tammy Abraham is that player.
I was going to say he's not technically anywhere near the likes of Kane. Technically, he's just not. He hasn't got that passing capability that Kane's got, or even the shooting capability. He's good and strong and fast and a decent finisher, but he's not, as you say, technically brilliant. He isn't. That's not Abraham for me. What do you think on Abraham then, Adam?
Oof, well, I'm not too sure about the Roma rumours actually. I heard the day that also informed, like I don't even know anymore. Like, so if he does go to Roma, then it'd be interesting to see how he gets on this Serie, because again, like you said before, not particularly a player that fits Mourinho's style. But yeah, I would think against lesser defences though, you would be able to get some games going. But I don't know. I haven't watched enough of Roma. I don't know how they play in terms of the style, but a sort of defensive-minded style, and yeah, he's a player that doesn't really fit him too much, so I don't know how he's going to get in there. But yeah, I'd be one to keep an eye on for. But I can't imagine Abraham at least getting double figures if he did go to Roma, regardless.
Mhm.
It was more the transfer fee for me. It's 34 million. Like I just think 34 million for Tammy Abraham. Like, is he that good? Really?
34 million, you think? Well, it depends any day, really. I
Yeah.
remember that. Like Sheffield got Brewster for 35 million. Obviously, we bought you in for.
Wasn't it 25 million for Brewster? Was it 20?
I swear it was 35 million for.
Was it? Well, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, well, you can say about anyone really, but yeah, I think 34 million is a good sort of gamble to go forwards. I think he's got the ability.
Was he Chelsea's top scorer last season? I feel like he was. I think that was like a start. Like despite his limited game time, he definitely was the season before.
I think he scored 12 goals, but that's down to Werner at the end of the day. Werner had far too many chances to not have been top scorer.
Yeah. Abraham wants me that I feel like Abraham is overlooked sometimes. I feel like he's definitely got the ability to be a good striker. There's something about him, and he can score goals. There's no doubt that he can score goals. It's just whether he can do it consistently. But 34 million is a lot for a striker that can be inconsistent. Like you could go there, and I see what you mean. You could be absolutely diabolical, and Mourinho would just bench him and never play him. I can see that happening easy. But at the same time, you don't know. I think you could go there and easily score 20 goals a season.
I mean, Adam was right in the sense that most of the transfers are not necessarily bad transfers. It's just out of the transfers there's been, he's probably one that I can see going wrong. Hence why I put him as a bust.
Yeah. Right, so who was your third and final bust?
I used my free transfer up here. It was on Memphis Depay to Barcelona.
Oh, I think it's going to be a bust, eh? Right, go on then.
I do. I'm basing this a lot on what I've watched mainly with the Netherlands, where I think he's went missing a lot. And I feel like the Netherlands play a sort of slow build-up play, which is going to be similar in a fashion to what he's going to play at Barcelona. And I think Aguero's out injured for 10 weeks. Messi's not there.
Yeah.
Dembele can't stay fit for 4 games or whatever. I feel like there's going to be an over-dependence on Depay, and I don't think he's the sort of player that can drag you and grab you by the scruff of the neck.
No, he's not got that kind of discipline. I'll agree with you on that one. He's not a disciplined player at all. But he's proved it at Man United. He proved it. Leon, he was a great player, but he was never disciplined. He's always the kind of a bit of a... He'll turn up when he wants to.
I feel like he's a luxury player, and what Barcelona now need is not a luxury player. They need somebody that's going to be able to be there week in, week out.
No, yeah, I do agree. I think as a free, from a financial perspective, someone like Depay is not a bad signing on a free. Definitely not. You can't argue the financial perspective. But purely on, as I say, like his performance, I get a feeling as well that he might not turn up. So what are you thinking on that, Adam? Do you think he'll turn up, or do you think he'll, phone it in?
I think probably be a good fit for Barcelona because Barcelona are quite an attacking-minded team. They'll press, and if Bus gets up, they'll play at the halfway line all match. Like the back forwards start at the halfway line, go and go match long. It doesn't matter what happened this season. Barcelona are obviously going to be downgraded from last year, and I don't think there'll be as much of the pressure on some of the players. I think players like Ansu Fati, Griezmann, there'll be a season where those two can actually get the spotlight a lot more now that Messi's gone. So. Yeah, I think for a free sign, he's going to be good. I think Depay's a good player, getting him behind. I think in terms of working with the wingers, I think he's someone that will do all right for Barcelona. And for a free sign, you can't go wrong. I really think he will be a decent sign for them. I can see him probably scoring between 10 to 12 goals.
But do you not think 10 to 12 goals? Sorry, Evan.
No, I was going to say, I'm going to agree with probably what you were saying. 10 to 12 goals is not enough for a Barcelona side. And listen, 30 goals a season now. Messi's gone, he was 40 goals a season.
Yeah,
they need that.
It doesn't matter what you do, you can't replace Messi. And Barcelona fans got to get used to it. Like, you're not going to see 20 plus goals anymore in this team. That's the sad reality for Barcelona because the club is just in the shambles at the minute.
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to replace Messi anyways. They still haven't replaced Suarez is the issue.
Yeah. And Depay is not a Suarez replacement either.
They haven't got the finances to replace a player like Suarez, though.
They haven't got any finance. I think that's the issue, isn't it? They've got no money, as far as they're concerned. And I'm going to mention that when I come to mind. But yeah, they're a mess. And as I say, I think Depay hasn't got the guts. He hasn't got the gumption to step up in the way that other players have.
All right. Okay.
Right. So moving on to my busts. I'm going to start with we'll see if it's controversial or not. I definitely think the fee, everyone will agree with it. It's way too high. I'm going to start with Romelu Lukaku. I think he's going to be a massive bust for the money they're spending. It's looking at 115 million euros, 95 million pounds. I think it is, roughly. We'll say 100 million because the probably with bonuses it'll be 100 million easy. For a player that they sold for what was it, 30 million to Everton?
No, I suppose a lot more for Everton, wasn't it?
36.
No, 30. It was around 30, I think.
Yeah, 36 million. And you're thinking, it's like with the Pogba Man United thing. I don't like you get. They've got to come back where you cut your losses, unless it's like you're talking a player who is like a Messi or Ronaldo that you cannot get anyone else remotely like them. Like you can't. They're once a generation talent, and you cannot get anyone like them at all. They don't exist. Then I would say going back in for a player like that and spending stupid money, because there's no one else you can get. Lukaku is a great player, no doubt, and he's had a good season at Milan, but just 100 million for Lukaku for me is absolutely mind-blown. And on top of that, my reasoning for this is, right, so there are better alternatives for probably the same money. If there was being repeatedly transfer links for Haaland, whatever, and I know that he's not as prem-proven like Lukaku is, but he's 60 goals in 60 games. He's worth a gamble, and he'd probably cost not quite half, but probably he'd be 3/4 of the price of Lukaku. Probably about looking 70 million mark for Haaland, I'd say. That's what's been, reported. And especially with his next year, I think he's available for 40 million or something. Like he's, the Dortmund will sell. There's no doubt because they know they're going to sell next summer anyways. You could get someone like him for way cheaper. Martinez for Spurs, 60 million. They've been, quoted. How can a club like Inter, who has in financial distress, get 100 million out with a player? It's just ridiculous to me. And as well, they've got players that can play the same position. They bought Havertz. I know Werner's been terrible. I know he's been terrible. I'm not going to argue that. But they've got Havertz, Werner, and I think Abraham's a decent striker. If they give him the game time, he can easily be good for them. Maybe not as good as Lukaku, but he wouldn't cost them 100 million. And then that youngster I was on about Broja, they've just known at Southampton. He's a similar kind of player. Tall player, playing last season. I wouldn't say he'd be ready for the first team, but keep him in around, play him in the FA Cup. Maybe you never know. You got to give youngsters a chance, and I just think 100 million for Lukaku was ridiculous. Not worth it at all. Anyone disagree with us, or agree on that Lukaku is a waste of money?
Oh, not going afterwards.
I'm afraid I'd massively disagree.
Oh, go on then.
I feel like Lukaku's goal record in the Premier League alone. I know you're saying Haaland's not Premier League proven. He might be good, which I'm sure if he came to the Premier League, he would score a lot of goals. But I feel like Haaland doesn't need to move yet. Lukaku's probably got one last big contract in him. So I think in the Premier League, he knows the league's suited to him. And Chelsea know the league suited to him. I think he will score a lot of goals for Chelsea, because I know you've said Werner's terrible, which everybody knows. Werner was diabolical last year, but Lukaku's not the sort of player that can dribble with it and fancy skills. He's the sort of player that if you give him the ball in the right areas, he will score goals, and that's all Chelsea need. There's been
Right.
an over-reliance at the end of the season on Havertz as a false nine, but I feel like is in a deeper role where Havertz is running beyond Lukaku, the two of them will link up really well.
But then this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm gonna say. And we had this conversation about Abraham. That Abraham can be that finish it for you. He's maybe not technically as brilliant as Lukaku, but he's still young. And Lukaku, I can see similarities between them as type of players. They're big men. They're fast to a point. Not rapid, but they can get a good acceleration going. And they're strong players. You know, Lukaku's stronger than Abraham. Abraham's a bit more of a beanpole. But the point being is Abraham can be strong on the ball if he needs to be. And I'm not saying he's what Chelsea probably want a better player. You know, they want to push the Premier League. But I just have a feeling that Abraham is overlooked, and I think he could do it for them. You know, you don't know unless you give him a chance. He's not had a real chance under Tuchel, and he's still a top scorer. And he's barely played any games. He had 12 goals, and he literally did come back the last few seasons. He's barely played.
I can see where you're coming from, but I just think Lukaku, even if it's just presence alone, is a better option than Abraham. I feel like Abraham for a Villa, a Leicester, that sort of club is his level if he was to play in the Premier League. I feel like Lukaku understands positionally better. Like the best example I can give is Cavani. When you look at the difference between Martial and Cavani, Martial's technically a much better player, but Cavani's the better striker because of his positional awareness. And I feel like Lukaku and Abraham would be the same idea.
Yeah. Well, let's say I just think Abraham needs someone to take under his wing a little bit, give him a chance, and I think he easily could be up there. Like we saw it when, you know, he did get chances under Lampard. He took them. He did. He really did. You know, when he had someone to guide him and someone to usher him a bit and like calm him and give him the chance, he took it. And I think he needs that again under another manager. And I think he can provide. Like honestly, I was quite before the sign. I think fair. Abraham probably would be a better signing for Villa than Ings, given that Ings is 29. I think, and they spend what 31 million on Ings. I think they could have got Abraham for the same price. He's way younger, and he's something different. Ings is still a good signing, I think. Not that much money though. He'll play well, but yeah, I think Abraham, as I say, that's what my Lukaku argument is, that he could probably do that kind of job. And so the thing that really put me back was just the transfer fee more than anything. It's just a lot of money.
Well, I look at this, I try to put myself in a blind sort of mindset. He's thinking, oh, well, I went to Bundesliga last season. I bought one of the best strikers there, Timo Werner. What is like? Well, why should I spend about 60 or £70 million on Harden, but I can spend an extra 30 and get someone that I know is going to score goals in the Premier League with Lukaku? Maybe a few years ago, I wasn't the biggest fan of Lukaku and Man U, but the last couple of seasons, I think I learned. I mean, he's kicked it in. He really has kicked it in. For me, he will be a player that is exactly what Chelsea need. Again, you just need to make all the runs. He's got the wingers to do that for him. All he needs to do is be in the right place, which he's going to do. So, yes, it's a lot of money for him, definitely, but I mean, he's a player you know is going to score goals, and that's kind of what Chelsea need, really. So, for me, it's a good signing because, again, worst case scenario, he's a bit of a flop, then yeah, I've got options elsewhere with Timo Werner, for example. Again, not a good finisher, but he wasn't awful at times last season. He has got little glimpses in there, but yeah, I think it's a good sign in the end for them. There's not many options out there anymore, I think. But who else? Harden, Lewandowski. That's about it, really, in terms of world-class strikers. But yeah, I think Lukaku will be a player that's going to have a good season. But in terms of, obviously, the money side of it, £100 million is just ridiculous for him.
No, that is but that's more on the transfer market, I suppose, than the quality of the player. Because I know Lukaku was a great player, and that wasn't my argument with this, bust. I think it'd be a bust in terms of the money. I don't, and one injury, one whatever, and 100 million. Like look at Barca with Coutinho, 100 odd million on a player, and now they're in financial crisis. And it sounds stupid, but those things are related completely. You don't waste that much money on a player and then have financial crisis a year or two later, and it be a coincidence. I just think it's a big risk to me because 100 million is still 100 million, and especially in the current market with COVID and everything. I know Chelsea are a bit of crowd, but you can't afford to waste that much on a striker that might not provide.
I think Barcelona is different than other football clubs because Barcelona is solely a match day hospitality. The amount of money spent in tickets, I mean, I went to Barcelona match. I spent about £120 each just to get a ticket. Like, and bearing in mind, season ticket holders, like, God knows how much you spend for one of them. That's what Barcelona rely on. They rely on having Messi at the club and for people just to come in with all that money because that's how they make money these days. But the pandemic, obviously, it's affected every team. But I think Barcelona is one of the massive ones that affected the most, just to how big the stadium is and how much money they lost. But yeah, obviously at the same time, buying Dembele for £130 million, the most injury-prone player in football history. I mean, yeah, I've made some really bad business investments, and unfortunately, it's going to bite in the backside.
Yeah, well, I'll move on to my second bust. We'll come back to that Barca stuff in a bit later when we talk about Messi. If we get time to talk about Messi, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the financial stuff. But yeah, my next bust is I picked Ben White, and I've got good reasoning for this. And the fee it's a high fee. There's no doubt that it's expensive for Ben White. And the reason I argue with this fee is he's got one season of Premier League experience. One season. And he was decent. But is he worth 50 million? Like, Harry Maguire was expensive, but he had a couple of seasons at least in the Prem, He had one good season under Leicester, which was the one that got him the big transfer, but he'd had at least a couple of seasons in the Premier League, proving he can do it every single year. And that's why he was worth 80 million. And it was a lot of money, and we can still argue whether it was worth it or not. Probably not for 80 million, especially when you look at they've got Varane for 40 odd million now, or 50 million. But I just think that's ridiculous money for a player who's only got one season of Premier League experience. And my biggest issue as well is it's the wrong signing for Arsenal, in my opinion. Arsenal need a defender who's going to make an impact right now. Whilst Ben White might take a season or two to kick on, they need to do what Man United have done with Varane. They need to buy a top-class defender right now who's going to make an impact straight away, and it's going to solve up that defence because that's what they need to have a good season. And Ben White doesn't offer that security, that certainty. And for 50 million, you want a player to offer that, especially, as I say, if you see Man United spending less and getting a better defender, you need to be, being more smart with your money. And that was my big argument with Ben White, is that they should be going for a defender for now, not for the future.
My problem with Arsenal being, I don't think they need one defender. I think they need four defenders. I think they need a back line. And unfortunately for Ben White, he's still got a bunch of clowns alongside him. So when the team's going to make mistakes, unfortunately, it's going to put pressure on him. I can't think of a worse defensive player for than Arsenal because the defence is terrible. And Stan Kroenke refuses to buy players. He would not buy players. He's got a good youth squad. He just wastes them. I mean, I still don't get how we're getting Joe Willock for 20 million. I don't understand that at all. I can't see how that's a good deal for Arsenal because he's a player that's been class last season. And I just think Arsenal in a whole is just a mess at the minute. All season long, there's going to be protests. It's just going to be a horrible time play for the football club. So, unfortunately for Ben White, I think he's a good player, but we need a new back line. One signing's not enough, and unfortunately, he's probably going to have a bad season because of it. But it's not down to player; it's more down to just.
No, exactly. It's to say, I think Arsenal need to, for that money. As you say, they're only going to spend that 50 million. That'll be all they spend on defence. They won't spend anything else. Whilst with that 50 million, they were probably better off buying a few players who are a little bit older. Maybe you're only going to get a few seasons out of them, but who are a high class, high quality right now, and are going to improve that defence drastically overnight. Instead of spending 50 million on one defender who's going to be, at sea. He's going to be totally lost in that defence, and it's just going to leak goals like it did every other season.
I sort of think, I think it's a good signing. I just say yes. The rest of the defence isn't brilliant, but I think they've got to start to invest in players because, as Adam's pointed out, Stan Kroenke is not going to go out and buy Varane. He's not going to go and buy that proven defender. So Mikel Arteta's got to buy players who we can shape into a good defence as a potential defence in the future. And Ben White, 22, 23, something like that.
23.
So he's going to have plenty of years to develop Arsenal into that Varane role, of which I already think he's a very, very good defender. Not just because of his ability on the ball. I think he's actually a good defender. When you look at what he did at Leeds at the Championship, he was able to play midfield. He's part of the defence that got them promoted.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's at least a step in the right direction of developing a good defence. I think it's a good sign.
You see, my argument as well for that is, to say the money and the youth, and you think it's a good value, not great value, but it's an investment they've made. I've been quite interested to see there's a lot of clubs this summer who are really struggling for money, not just because of the pandemic, but because of other reasons. Obviously, we looked at Inter. And there's two big centre halves there that a club like Arsenal could easily pick up. Stefan de Vrij is a great centre half. He'd make an instant impact in their defence, and he's been quoted at apparently Inter will accept anywhere from 15 to 25 million. Alongside that, you got Skriniar, who is, I think he might be in the same age as Ben White, way more experience, way better centre half. I'd argue Skriniar can be world class if he's given the right management, right coaching. And apparently he cost less than Ben White, apparently anywhere from 35 to 45 million. So for me, they're paying the English premium again. Because he's English, he's worth more. If he was anything other than probably English, he'd probably worth only 30 million. But it's because he's English, 20 million on top of whatever they're paying. It's ridiculous. When they could have went somewhere else and got an experienced, established player. And that's my argument mainly for Ben White.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from in terms of value for the other two players, but they've played for Inter Milan, in which are a team that play 5 at the back and are more defensively minded. Whether you think Brighton's a good team or not, Potter, the way he likes to play out from the back, develop players that are able to play on the ball, and that's how. That's what I'm laughing at.
Like, so good.
That's how Arteta wants to line up Arsenal. He wants to be able to encourage them to play out from the back, and I feel like the profile of player Ben White suits Arsenal more than what Skriniar does, even if he is a better defender.
I was gonna say though, because Inter have been playing 3 at the back, and it's worked for them. They were playing with 2 wing backs last season, playing De Vrij, Bastoni, and Skriniar. I think that was a starting 3. At least definitely one of them was in there. I don't know if both were playing. I don't know how much minutes they got, but they both can play in a back 3, and they won a league title doing it. They beat the likes of Juventus, AC Milan, who had a great season as well. So there's no doubt me those players can play in a back 3, and they'd be better than Ben White right this second. It's just to say Arsenal need to make action immediately, and I agree that Ben White is probably a good investment, but he's not what Arsenal need right now. They need to make immediate investment and make immediate changes right now. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse for them. Like, it is. It's that simple. Fans already paid off, and there's not a lot Arteta can really do. I think so. I don't really know if he's the man for the job in the first place, but you can't really judge him when the guy is not got a lot of work with.
Well, of course, yeah, but with Arsenal, like I said before, Stan Kroenke is not going to spend more than what he needs to. So you can either get one really good defender for £50 million, or you can spread it across and try and get 2 or 3 or 4 for less. And that's the problem with Arsenal. You need good defenders now. And going about Skriniar before, again, for Inter Milan, we look through this so far. Hakimi was 55 million, and Lukaku was 110 or something. I mean, Inter Milan, yes, they're in financial crisis at the minute, but they're probably going to overcharge these sort of players. So again, I don't know how much you could have gotten for. If they got him nice and early, maybe they could have gotten for a decent amount. But I still think you have to pay around about £50 to £60 million to Skriniar if they really wanted to get him. But for Arsenal, Arteta is screwed. What is he supposed to do with the money? He has not got the money to finance Arsenal. It's going to be another season for them, but they're going to be towards a mid-table sort of team. And that's unfortunately what they are now, because the owner just does not care at all. And Arteta's got to sell these youngsters out to try and get some money back in. And it's a shame for Arsenal fans, because obviously they're used to having so many Champions League seasons.
Yeah, it is sad to watch, and I'm sure that'd be a nice topic to cover maybe at a later date, maybe whatever. I think we should definitely look at these kind of teams at another point. Your Arsenals, your Barças. There's a few teams across Europe at the moment that are going through massive changes and massive issues, whether it be financial or a hierarchy thing. So it might be more interesting to look at that in depth another time. But yeah, I think me and Mark agreed on Ben White being a good player but the wrong signing. I think there's no doubt over Ben White's ability. He's a great player. It's just not the right signing for Arsenal at the second, I don't think. It's probably it, to be honest. I think over another team, 50 million for Ben White, I would say, great signing. Honestly, I think if City needed a centre half, which they really don't, but I think he'd be an okay signing for a City. He'd have a lot of time, especially under someone like a John Stones, a lot of time to improve his game. And by the time he was 24, 25 and was in that starting City 11, he'd be one of the best centre halves in the Premier League, if not the best. But I think Arsenal, he needs to be good right this second, right now. And he's just not that player, unfortunately.
The thing I think with Arsenal is that Ben White, you can literally, you need a good defender now. And yes, of course, he's only had 1 season of experience in the Premier League, but unfortunately, that's what you're stuck with. You either get him or you're just stuck with the defenders you have. And he will be an improvement. Like you said before, I don't think he's the wrong side. I think they have made a correct choice in getting him. I just don't think he's enough. I think Arsenal need more, and they're not going to do it. So unfortunately, for that reason, I don't think it's going to be what Arsenal need. But I think it's a start, though, if they can get a couple more defenders next season. But as of right now, though, he's just screwed. He really is.
I think I can agree with that sentiment. Like, the idea is if right now Arsenal went out and signed 2 of our great centre halves, I'd say why it would not be a bust. Do you know what I mean? I would not argue with him being, I'd say, probably a great signing. But he needs those people around him. He's still quite young, and without those other signings, which aren't going to happen, let's be honest, because it's Arsenal, then I can't call him a bargain or anything right now. He's definitely still a bust in my eyes until Arsenal change their policies and start actually getting people around him. And that's why I stuck him in there, because he will have a bad season. Not because he's a bad player, but because he's in that bad defence. He'll be lost, unfortunately. Yeah, right. I'll move on to my final bust, try and get out of the way, because we've spent a lot of time talking about Ben White there. But I'll move my final one. I think, again, it's controversial, but I think once I give my reasons, it's very obvious to see why. My final bust, Aguero. And the reason I think it's only a bust, I wrote it before this happened, but he's already injured. He's already injured, and he's been there 5 minutes. In the last seasons, he's missed over 30. Since 2020, he's missed 35 matches through injury. 35 matches, and that would be okay if Barcelona weren't in financial crisis. And they are currently paying, I think the rumored fee is anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 million pounds a year he's making. And they could not afford Messi's contract. And these kind of signings are why. He's 32 years old. He's not going to get any better. His injuries are going to get worse. I'm not saying he might not, bring the goals when he's back, but say he's out 10 weeks already. He might be fit for El Clasico. Possibly not, because again, he's 32. His recovery time's not as good. He's not like, your Ibras or Cavani. He does rely on some kind of pace, some kind of running. Great finisher, no doubting. But I just don't think he's, again, what Barca need. He's a great player, but too injury prone and a waste of money. And look at the press as well. The negative press they're getting because of him. He already wants out of his contract. Do you know what I mean? And that's embarrassing for a club like Barcelona. Things are already going bad for them without your players wanting to leave because, their mates have gone to PSG. It's embarrassing for them. And for that reason, complete bust. He's going to miss at least 8 games and he's costing them loads of money. Utter bust. Honestly, if I was them, I'd just cancel his contract now. Let him go. Say, right, okay, you walk away. We don't give you the money for your contract. Leave now. Go find a club in Argentina or whatever. Go. That's what I'd do if I was Barcelona.
Well, I'll speak first on this. Well, I do disagree with that. My biggest problem with the Aguero deal is the fact that Aguero's incentive for joining Barcelona was to play alongside Messi, and now because of that, he's obviously very frustrated. That's the biggest problem. Of course, like you say, he's injury prone. Definitely, he's already injured again for Man City last season. He barely played. But as a free signing, what our striker can he get for a free? Depay and Aguero, yes. Of course, you got your faults about them, but who else on a free signing can he get that's going to be better than those two? They've got great experience. They won a lot of trophies, Aguero especially. But for Barcelona, what else can he do? The club can't spend money on anyone else. As a free signing, I can't go wrong with Aguero. Yes, he gets injured all the time, but when he does play, he's a fantastic player.
The thing with a free signing for me is with a free signing, you're always compensating for the fact they're free. The player knows they're free. That agent knows they're free. So therefore, you're always going to pay more on wages, always. Or there's these bonuses. And yeah, you probably pay less than you would to pay outright for the player. But it creeps up. These bonuses, this money, these salaries, they do because they know that you're not going to spend any money on buying them. So you're always going to pay more on their salaries and their signing on fees and stuff. Because that's just how football works. These agents and that will try and squeeze as much money out of clubs as they can. And they know, especially when you're a free agent, you've got all the chips. Do you know what I mean? You can go wherever you want. You can do whatever you want. You've got these teams where you want them in terms of a financial situation. And Barca, as it's become apparent, don't have the money. And they've just been conned signing someone who's crocked. In my opinion, he's way too injured. Was it a 2-year contract he signed? He's 34 by the time that contract ends. And they'll have paid about, I think, in wages, without any bonuses or anything, at least 11 million you're looking at. And that is just such a waste of money for a striker who is probably going to play about 20 games in 2 seasons. Not good enough.
No, what striker would you get them for free? Because there's that many options out there.
Not for free. I'm saying if they are going to at least... Because to me, that's just 11 million down the drain. Literally down the drain. The only positive is maybe they'll sell some Aguero shirts, especially now Messi's gone. So it might make some money back from that. Maybe $1 million, $2 million. But they're not good. Like it's just throwing money down the drain, in my opinion. I know they probably won't get anyone better for for that money, but spend an extra 10, maybe 20 million and get someone really good or a prospect. That's what Barcelona. They've got such an aging squad. That's why I have such a problem with signing. Is you look at that squad now, their best players are old. Or not even their best players, because Piqué, he's past it. He's even admitted himself that he's not where he used to be. Busquets is still a great player, but he's 34 now or something like that. And then you add in a 32-year-old Aguero, and it's just slowly the age that squad's creeping up and up and up and up and up. And you don't need a Aguero into that mix to make things worse. The Depay's young, and I know he can't do it all by himself, we've said, but he makes sense to me because even if he doesn't provide, he's still young. You can sell him on. Like, you're not going to sell Aguero on. It's not happening.
No, it's just the experience Aguero's got, really. He's one of the best Premier League strikers ever. And yes, of course, he's injury prone. He's not going to play many games anymore, but he's still a class finisher. He's someone that Barcelona, in my opinion, needs, especially for players like Griezmann, sort of in the wing. Just really good striker to sort of put the finishes in. Yeah. And I think when he does play, he will be a good signing. Yes, his wage is obviously quite high, but again, like Barcelona have got no money. Who can they get at this moment in time? There's no one else out there, and unfortunately, that's what they're stuck with.
I'll admit, I think out of my three I picked, I think Aguero, in some senses, might prove me wrong. I think Lukaku is the most likely to prove me wrong completely. I'll happily admit that. Like, he could have a fantastic season next season and completely prove me wrong. I still don't think the fee's worth it. And Ben White, I don't think he'll prove us wrong because, unfortunately, as I say, he's in that terrible defence. But Aguero, yeah, might have a couple of good games. If he turns up in El Clasico, bangs a hat-trick, then I think I'm not proving him wrong straight away, but he goes on his way to proving me wrong. He's got a lot to do for me for the amount of wages they're throwing down his way to be worth it. What do you think about Aguero then, Kieran?
Firstly, I'll apologise that my phone is on charge because it's nearly dead. Hence why I'm looking like I'm falling over. And as far as Aguero's concerned, I want to take away from the fact that he's a free transfer, because I feel like the transfer kind of makes you lean towards the fact that he's going to be a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I know that's completely flipping what I said earlier regarding Grealish, saying like the transfer is a lot, so he needs to live up to it. But in terms of Aguero specifically, I think it's a separate story, because yes, he's a free transfer, but I just think even when he does play, even if he is a good player, his legs aren't there anymore. And
yeah,
I get what Adam's saying. Like, who can they sign? Because there's no money there to sign anyone. But in that sense, why not promote someone from the academy?
Exactly, that's my point. They need to start investing in youth. This is the only way out. The only way they can get a way out of it is not finding another Messi, but people like Fatty, people who have the chance to be world class. Because the La Masia academy is one of the best in the world, if not the best. Use it. If you're in this situation, you've got young players there who are going to be world class. Pull out of there. Pull out your Fatties. Pull out people like that. Pedri, look at Pedri, fantastic player. I have no doubt for Barcelona next season he's probably going to step up. I do have slight worries about him being exhausted due to playing 70 games in one season or whatever it was. Ridiculous amount of games he's played. So he probably will be exhausted at the early parts of next season. But players like that, they're making the impact at the moment. Don't waste 11 million in wages on a 32-year-old.
The thing I find with Barcelona is you can't just rely on youngsters. You do need some experience in there. And if you're just going to rely on youngsters, then you don't know how they're going to perform, because none of these have ever played La Liga football before. So getting a new striker from Barcelona, like, we don't know anything about any of the academy strikers. Like, maybe they're not good enough. I don't know. We honestly don't know. We can't tell. But you got a player like Aguero now. Like, he will score goals when he plays. Yes, his legs might not be there anymore, but he still needs some experience because it's going to take years to get an actual half-decent striker coming up. I don't know where Evans went there, but...
Basically, I think we've got enough experience as is. That's my argument on it. They've got plenty of experience already. Plenty. They've got Busquets, everyone like that. They don't need any more experience. They've got enough now in that squad. They've got that spine of experience. If you start blending in the youth, it could be good for them. Frankie de Jong's, far from old, and he's not young, but he's young enough. I think he's 22, 23 now. But he's a fantastic player. I think as well, do you know what puts the Aguero thing in perspective for me? You get rid of was he 33, 34-year-old Suarez, who's fantastic, barely any injuries, playing amazing football, and let go expect him to prove them all wrong. Yet you go waste all your wages on Aguero. It's ridiculous. It's everything they do makes no sense.
It doesn't detract from the Aguero deal. Like that was just really slotty business for Barca. Like why would you ever give Suarez to one of your La Liga rivals? Like it's backwards. It's actually backwards. And that's why you're in the financial struggle, because they don't know where the money's going. They don't understand football, and that's obviously a massive problem to Barcelona. But in terms of Aguero, like what strikers have Barcelona even got? They got Braithwaite. Griezmann plays in the wing, so he's not really a striker. And who else is there? Depay. Like that's about it. Like you need another striker in there.
Well, for me though,
argue you can go for the youth players, but we don't have the youth players be any good. And you've got to wait years until they're actually, a proven La Liga sort of player. But for me though, like you said, he's a lot of money, and he's obviously injury prone, but he's someone that's got a couple of years in La Liga. I think La Liga is a lot easier to play in the Premier League.
I'll agree, because I think the quality of La Liga overall, like the top teams are so amazing that you get the Prem, but the bottom half are not as good. They're just not. Like you haven't got your likes of Burnley who can grind out a result in La Liga. Do you know what I mean? Like it is a cliche, but if Messi had played in the Prem all his career, he'd still be a fantastic player. Probably still the best in the world, but he probably wouldn't have quite as many goals as he has playing in La Liga, because it's more fluid, it's more passing, it's more attacking football.
I think the Premier League is just better by a mile. Like teams like Arsenal and Everton are like mid-table teams in the Premier League. I mean, let's be honest, there's about 5 or 6 like good to decent teams in La Liga, and the rest of them like you would expect like most Premier League teams to beat. So I think the football will be a lot easier for Aguero. Obviously against the big teams he's got to struggle, but he's got probably 2/3 of the league he can play decent football against when he is fit. But yeah, obviously in terms of the big teams, there are some really good teams in La Liga.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's how I've finally done with the bus. I think we've had a good little like argument over the bus there, because no one's 100% great in anything. But before we move on to the bargains, is there any like honourable mentions? Is anyone you think might be a bust, but you want to just throw some names out there? Any names you want to throw out there, Adam? Is it a possible bust?
I can't say all ones I wanted to say really. I think in terms of the signs, I think most of them are pretty good so far, or at least ones you'd think in theory would work. So yeah, I think it's quite hard to think of bust, but I don't know. We'll see how the season goes, but yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see Premier League ones at least. I think there's some really
yeah, definitely. Anyone you want to throw out? Anyone came to mind? Anyone that nearly made it on your list there, Kieran?
Well, I know you mentioned off camera recently Sancho.
Yeah.
I'm in two minds.
No, that's me. That's very much me as well. I'm in two minds over him. My gut is saying that he'll definitely have a bad first season, but at the same time, for 73 million, I feel like he is still a world-class winger in waiting. It's hard to say. Because
I think he's going to have a good season, but I don't think he's going to be what everybody wants, and that's what Ronaldo was when he first joined.
He's not Ronaldo. He's not strong enough. He's not strong enough. He's not got good enough finishing. He's not Ronaldo. He's more like Messi, if anything, than Ronaldo.
I think the expectations are too high. I think most people expect them to have records like Bruno Fernandes that would be scoring every match. Like Sancho is probably not going to do that. I think it would be a good sign, but I think Man U fans will have too high of an expectation for him.
He's a less direct winger than like your Rashfords and that. He's Rashford goes for goals as a winger. What Sancho's going to do, he's going to create your chances. And I think United need that, especially with Cavani in the team. I think it could work well. I think United are looking at a good season next season. I do get the feeling they might stumble at some point, and I think they'll still finish second or third. But I think the season after, they're looking like a very, 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 very nice team, especially if they manage to keep some of the experience round. And looking at a lot of their youngsters. A lot of their youngsters are starting to play really well as well. I was watching a lot of pre-season. Alenga, the Swedish striker, he's looking nice. I don't think he's ready for their first team yet, but they've got a lot of youth coming through, and I think United, they're really close to a Prem title. You've got to say it. You've got to say it. I just don't know. Sancho, I think he is in some senses a missing piece, but I just don't know how he's going to do next season. I think he might flop a bit.
It's not. I think he'd flop. I just don't think he'll be what people expect. I think some people honestly expect him to break 20, but he's not going to do that. Yeah, it's that simple. I think he will fit Man U's style of play quite well. Ollie's obviously been for about 2 seasons or so now, so he's definitely a player he's kept his eye on. And I think Sancho will fit nicely in the Premier League. Obviously, it's the first time he's properly playing with we'll see how he gets on. But yeah, I think he'll be right at home. I think Man U will be a good choice for him. In terms of Man U, I think City once again will win the league next year, but I think Man United would definitely give him a good go.
I think what we probably should do is at some point we should sit and have a chat about our Premier League predictions. I think we'll sit and we'll start writing them up, and we'll come back in a couple of days. We'll have a chat about our predictions because I think it'll be interesting to see. Because for me, I can't tell until this transfer window's over because there's a lot of interesting transfers happening. There's some teams surprising me. I won't mention anything here, but I think it'll be interesting to come back to that in a couple of days' time and have a nice chat about where I think everyone will finish.
Arguments to the Premier League predictions.
Yeah, I can see that happening. But for now, we'll move on to the bargains. We'll start again with you, Adam. Go on. Who are your bargains?
The first one I went for was Olivier Giroud, £2 million at AC Milan. I mean, let's be real, he's a quality player. He's getting a bit older now, but he's a flair player. He's a target man, and for someone that's going to be most likely a backup to Eva, I mean, that's a backup striker and a half for £2 million. I think. I think you'll suit Serie A quite well. Obviously, he's been the Premier League. I think Serie A is a sort of league where he's going to
slow down a bit. Yeah.
One we will fit in quite nicely too. And eventually, Eva, he's getting quite old now. Eventually, he's going to move on. I think Giroud will be a player that can sort of give Eva time off if he needs it. So, yeah, obviously, I don't watch AFC Milan or I don't know exactly how they play, but obviously, a target man. There's exactly a sort of player that you would think is going to work in Serie A. But
no, I do agree. You look at Serie A, you look at like you strikers who do really well. Edin Dzeko, Quagliarella, Ibra himself. They're strikers who are getting on their age. I think Quagliarela's like 39 or something. He's really old as well. He's played for everyone, Juventus a lot, and he was still banging in goals. Ibra's banging in goals. Dzeko's banging in goals. So I see what you mean. I think Serie A will really suit him, and I think if he gets the chance, he'll get a lot of goals. Because personally, he's better than all those strikers, in my opinion, in terms of technical ability. Yeah, at the moment, he's technically better than all of them. Look what he's done for France. So I think in the Milan team, if he gets some service, he could easily be top scorer, in my opinion. So I definitely agree with him being a bargain. I nearly put him on my list. One reason I didn't is because I don't know. You never know with Milan. That's my thing. If you went to another team, I'd definitely say that. But it's just Milan are so hit and miss.
What do you think about that, Mo?
I've always liked Giroud. I feel like he's never been appreciated, particularly at Arsenal. I know he had the spell where the potentially could have won the league, where he went 15 games without scoring. But I feel like compared to other strikers that have come and gone, I feel like he's been quite a consistently quality player in the Premier League. And as you say, I think his play style will probably at this age suit more Serie A. So I can see it being a good sign.
Yeah, I know you've also rated Giroud your sport because I know in the past I've been guilty of underrating him, and you've always quite sang his praises, Kieran. So I can see why. I definitely am starting to come around to his, what he's good at and what he's not. Because I think, especially when you're younger, I like the strikers who scored, ridiculous goals and loads of pace and whatever, and you couldn't realise as long as you score goals, it doesn't matter how it's done. All right, who's the next bargain then, anyways?
I went for Leon Bailey. That's like £20 million, I think it was. First off, I think Villa's done a good job at spending the greenish money. I know obviously I had a bit of an argument about Ings earlier, but I still think what was about £40 million to the two of them. I think it's a great deal for those. Like Leon Bailey's obviously he's going to try and come and be Greenish to replacement. It's going to be very hard to fill those shoes, but he's a player that's going to have a good time at Aston Villa. Aston Villa obviously a lot more expansive about the player. They love going towards the goal. I mean, Ollie Watkins has had a great first season in Villa. I think Leon Bailey is someone that's going to work quite nicely. I think he's a player that's going to hold a lot of the ball, and it's someone that's going to obviously score a lot of goals and get as well for the strikers. But yeah, obviously again, I haven't watched an awful lot of Leon Bailey, but when I have seen him, his little glimpses, yeah, he does look like a really good player. But it's tough for the Bundesliga because the back lines are a lot wider in the Bundesliga. Guys like Sancho and running down the wing, they got about 6-yard space sometimes, whereas in the Premier League, you never ever get that sort of space. So that's obviously something to keep an eye out for Bailey, but I think he's someone that will fit in quite nicely for Aston Villa, and I think he'll be a player that will work off the strikers quite well.
Yeah, I think I'll agree. I've looked at the money that they spent because they were so smart. They were realistic. They went, we're probably going to lose Grealish. They tried to keep him the push, but they're like, we're going to lose him this summer. Let's be honest. He's just done amazing at the Euros. Let's start early on spending that money and let's spend it smartly. And how they did it as well, it meant that they got better deals because if they sold Grealish then went spending, people are going to go, we know you've got 100 million in your pocket. Do you know what I mean? Give us this much or that much. Because they started buying before they sold Grealish, clubs are giving them deals based off the money they have then, not the Grealish money they have in their back pocket. So for me, that's a genius from Villa, absolutely genius in the way they've done it. I think it was 30 million in the end for Bailey. I was looking up earlier because again, I did toy putting him on my list. 30 million for Bailey, and it was 37 million for Buendia. 39 million. Was it?
38, I think, just
38.
one.
Yeah, just in the middle. So yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's hard to tell with Bailey. I think what Buendia proven. I think definitely will be a good player. Bailey could go either way. He's either going to be world class or a bit like some players that are fast and sometimes they do struggle in the Prem because they're not exactly as strong as they need to be. They're just fast-paced merchants who struggle. So we'll see with Bailey, but I can see why it's a bargain because you're looking even last summer you were getting quoted 50 million for him, and they managed to pick him up for 30. Good business.
What do you?
I mean, he's an unknown entity. I mean, somewhat. I can only claim to have watched highlight reels or something like that. I don't really know much about Billy, but from looking at that, he looks like an exciting winger. My only thought is, I agree with you that he's going to be a good signing, but I'm in two minds. I don't know if Villa needed him because of how many options they've got in attacking areas.
I was going to say that myself. That's my one issue. Is like you look now, they play front three, don't they? So you've left front three. You've got Watkins, Ings, Buendia, Bailey, Trezeguet, unless he goes because they might sell him now to sign Bailey. And I suppose someone else I'm forgetting as well.
Traore as well.
Yeah, and you got to fit them into a front three. I mean, great depth, talking amazing depth, but still, those players are going to. Bailey's going to want to be starting. Buendia's going to want to be starting. Watkins is going to want to be starting, but then so Ings. So that's 4 players you've got to fit in the free spaces, and it's difficult. I mean, great off the bench, especially Watkins off the bench will be electric for them. Because I imagine Ings will probably be starting. Watkins will come on any of the front three positions. It is that Villa attack is scary, very scary.
So I think it's good for Villa though. I think Villa need options because I think Villa will try and push towards a European spot this season, especially third European competition now gives more teams a chance to get in. I think they have a great season. I really think they will. I think they will be like West Ham last year. There will be a team that will beat all the teams around them. They might struggle against the big 6, but I think in terms of the mid-tier teams, I think they'll beat the majority of them. I think that's going to get them a really high spot in the Premier League.
No, I agree with that. I think Villa are definitely my team to watch next season. But I think everyone's team to watch, to be honest. Everyone's team have done. But then that can be misleading. I mean, Villa have done it in the past where they've made a lot of big signings and then they've come in and underwhelmed completely. Was that you two? You got one more left in your bargains?
I had a free signing as well. I said David Alaba at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you lost 40% off. It's always going to be hard, but 10.5. I mean, he's one of the best in the world, Alaba. Of course, he had a really good European campaign while Australia. He played in the midfield. So, but he's a leader. That's what Real Madrid need with Ramos scoring. You need a new leader to come in, and he's someone that's going to do that. I don't know how he's going to get off his partner, but
who is this? Who is this centre-half partner?
But in terms of Alaba or Freeze, I mean, you cannot go wrong with that. It is absolutely quality.
Who is Madrid's centre-half? I know they got Alaba. Who?
Militao.
Or see that if I was them, I'd go for a Jules Koundé. Because then you've got those 3 you can rotate. I think Jules Koundé would be a great replacement for Varane for Madrid. But yeah, I see what you mean. Alaba, you can't argue because let's say shows a centre half, you play him left back over Mendy, and then let's say
vice player.
You can play anywhere.
I agree. I think Alaba. That's one of the 3 signings that's happened that I think is a good signing. I'm very surprised to buy and let him go, to be honest.
Well, he wanted to go, didn't he? He didn't want to sign a new contract. He wasn't buying that no control over it. The only thing is, I'm grateful he didn't sign for City because that would just not be fair. That is because those that would have been terrible.
PSG more like imagine they got him as well.
All the free transfers for PSG. Jesus, I couldn't be dealing with that. Like especially with that defense, Ramos and that, they're still like the best. No, I can't. I don't want to think about it. It upsets us how much money they've got. I don't think we'll argue Alaba. He's definitely a great player. Do you want to move on to your bargains then, Milsey?
Yeah. My first one is Anderson, who's gone to Crystal Palace. I'm unsure how Crystal Palace are going to do this season, but that's for another video.
Yeah.
But I do think Anderson particularly is going to have a good season. We're seeing in a struggling Fulham team last season. He was a leader, which I think when they've lost Gary Cahill, he was the sort of figure of a leader at the back, you would imagine. I think defensively, first of all, he's positionally very good. He heads balls away. He's a great tackler. And Palace have always had this dream that they want to become a progressive side. And Anderson's the sort of player that could play as that build-up player from the back. I think it's a different option of what they've already got.
Yeah.
Alongside Gehi, the other centre-back they've signed, who is more of a ball player. I feel like Anderson and is young. I think Anderson will be good to develop him into a better player as well. So I think that will be a good sign.
Well, also you know a lot about Gehi being a Swansea supporter. So
Yeah.
how much did Gehi cost Palace again? Anyone know? It wasn't expensive, was he?
No, it was 2.5 or something, I think.
Christ, that's cheap. That's got to be kicking the teeth for a Swansea there. Like, you know, you could have signed him for that cheap. And you just didn't.
That's another day.
Is he not going to be? Isn't he not your bargain transfer then? You picked Anderson over Gehi.
I did, just because Gehi was good, but he played in a back three where he had Grimes sitting and he was covered a lot. And he did make mistakes, but he's a quick physical defender that could get it back. In the Premier League with Palace, they're going to naturally sit deep, probably. Even if they want to play a progressive football, they're going to be slightly deeper than most teams, just because they haven't got the quality. I feel like if they make a mistake, he's going to be punished more.
Yeah.
So
He does remind
unsure
us
how
of
they're gonna do.
Tomori. Reminds us very much of Tomori in that sense, where he'll make a mistake, but because he's so fast, he'll catch him. A lot reminds us of Fiacco Tomori. No, I think I agree with Anderson. I don't know how much he cost, but he's a good defender. He was great for Fulham, and Palace need that. Palace definitely need that. Honestly, I think Arsenal should have went in for him. As I say, Arsenal could have got an Anderson and someone else for the same price as White. I think he would have been a great signing for Arsenal. It's a shame they didn't go for him. Yeah, I agree. What are you thinking then, Adam?
I think it's a good sign, but I don't think he have a good season. I don't trust Patrick Vieira one bit. I really don't. I really think Crystal Palace is in for a tough season ahead. I think in terms of Palace, so like you said, he are a defensive team. I think he will be up there that will slot in nicely, but I just don't think they have a good season at all. And unfortunately, I just don't think Anderson in particular is going to bring the world to life. I think Palace are a very hard time.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I'm definitely not. My gut says that Vieira is not the right man for Palace. I've heard a lot of people saying they'll think he'll not last more than a few games, and then they'll just get someone to steady the ship for the rest of the season. Do you know what I mean? They'll have a couple of games where you just diabolically they'll get rid of him and then do what they did last time with Hodgson, get someone in to fill the void. You know, a Hodgson type figure who will just steady them for the rest of the season. That's what Palace are, very steady. You know, and they need to take risks, though. You know, it might go horribly with Vieira, but if they want to progress, they've got to take those risks.
I don't know. It's tough for Crystal Palace because they've been seeing them progress all these years, but nothing's changed. They've been around about a mid-table team for all the times in the Premier League.
Not even mid-table. I wouldn't say mid-table.
Obviously around about the 15th spot, but
yeah.
Like where's the progression? Like I haven't seen them progress at all. And I have to think Crystal Palace, like, when are they going to start and do it? Because otherwise, it's just going to be a team in the Premier League that's essentially pointless. I mean, I can't expect these to speak as a Newcastle fan, but with Palace, though, they do seem to have owners that do want the club to get forward, but like I don't know, there's nothing really happening with them. And I think with Anderson, like obviously Fulham are a struggling team. They had the worst defence in the league. I remember if it wasn't just Sheffield, but Pioneers had a bad defence, and obviously he was one of the standout players in it. So it'll be interesting to see him alongside an actual capable defence. But with Crystal Palace, so they're quite an odd one. I really don't know how they're going to get on, but I just think he's going to have a bad season personally.
Right, so I think we'll grade the Anderson decent, Palace a bit iffy in terms of them themselves, but we'll agree Anderson's probably good value for money and will be all right. What are you thinking of your next bargain then?
We touched on Villa earlier and Buendia particularly. I think a lot of money for a player that's just come up from the Premier League, but I've watched him a lot last year and he was a lot better. He's a lot better than a championship quality player, and I think the sort of quality he has is very much, if to describe him as a player, that's played in the Premier League. He's very similar to the way Oscar used to play. He likes to play on the half turn. He's skillful. He can beat a player. But more importantly, his first touch and his finishing is very, very good.
Yeah.
And with Grealish gone, there's a big void of assists. What did he get? 12 assists last year, Grealish, or something like that.
Well, Dundee did the same thing, so I agree on that one.
I think even though he played from the right a lot for Norwich, I think he's going to play a slightly different role and play more central, which I think actually you might say change of position. Is he going to be good? I think it'll suit his style more because it's less. He's not the quickest player, but his technical ability is a lot better, and I think he'll mirror Oscar in the way that he plays, and he'll be a direct goal threat for Villa.
I do not agree with you. I think he's the perfect replacement for Grealish. I really do. In terms of the way he plays, in terms of the assists, like I can't remember. I don't know exact statistics. I think it was at least 8 assists he got for Norwich that season in a relegated side. And he was serving goals up to Pukki, and Pukki's an okay striker, but when you're serving it up to Ings and Watkins, you might get even more assists. I think it'd be very dangerous. And it's definitely a good signing. It might go wrong. You never know. You never know with signings, but I think on paper, great signing.
Yeah, no, I think it's a player that Villa kind of need. Like the player in particular, like they never really had a good one since they got promoted. I mean, what was it last season with Traore? I don't even know who it was anymore, but they didn't really bring the world to life. And I think Benji obviously is a player that's going to be good. With Norwich being a yo-yo club, he obviously wants consistent Premier League time, or it's a team that's trying to push somewhere. But unfortunately, with Norwich and the money, you're never ever going to get that down there. So I think it's the right move for him. I think a bigger club probably should have came from, I'll be honest. But Aston Villa is still an ambitious club, and I think in terms of the season ahead, you would expect him to do well. But again, you never know football. But with Aston Villa's attack and how they're looking this season, you would think he's going to have a good time there. So yeah, I think it's a good time.
Yeah. And have you got one more?
Yeah. My last one is Daka, who's just gone to Leicester.
Yeah.
He's played in the Austrian Bundesliga. Will it mean he transfers to the Premier League and score lots of goals? That's obviously always going to be an unknown. You could use Haaland to the Bundesliga as an example of somebody that can transfer from a lower league to a better league. He can do it. But I think just the way that he plays, he's very aggressive in the way that he runs, which is similar to Vardy. And what Vardy's give Leicester, they're never, ever going to be able to replicate that. But I feel like Daka is some way of replacing the player he is. Like
I agree.
Somebody who can run in behind. He's aggressive. He'll press defenders. And even from just the Charity Shield when he came on the other day, he was part of the reason that Leicester got a penalty. He looks like he could be one way of starting to replenish Vardy because he can't go on forever.
No, do you know what that I was going to say myself? That's why he was so close to making my bargains, because I think he is Vardy's replacement. He is, like, maybe not straight away because he's not going to be as clinical as Vardy is. As you say, he's come from a lower league, but I think with Vardy there to mentor him, he will be his perfect replacement. Hopefully, fingers crossed with Leicester fans. He's got the pace. He's direct. He's aggressive. Everything Vardy is, but he's just younger. So I think in that sense, he's a great replacement. And Leicester have not waited on Vardy to stop not performing. That was my worry, that Leicester would, wait for Vardy to stop performing and then be too late to get his replacement. And then you could never replace him. By doing this, you ensure that you still got him there, but you're trying to usher through the next thing. So I do agree. I think he's a great signing for Leicester.
Well, I can't speak too much about my barely watched him play, but I speak about as though obviously in Newcastle point of view, Joe Linton caused massive flop from the Bundesliga. I remember West Ham signed Haaland in the same season. Again, for 30-40 million pounds, he just didn't do it either. It's hard to tell with Bundesliga strikers though, because the way the Bundesliga and the Premier League play are two completely different leagues. I mean, the defences in the Bundesliga are just so open. Like I said earlier, the Premier League, you have teams that play 5 at the back and they'll just compress the defence down. There'll be no space to run in between. You've got to force the ball sometimes in the Premier League, whereas in the Bundesliga, you always have that space. So it's hard to tell because, again, he's a player who hasn't had Premier League experience. You don't know how he's going to play, but he's a promising one. And Vardy, he hasn't got long left for Leicester. In the next couple of seasons, so he will be leaving the club. So they need to look for the future and they need to bring someone in. But if he's the right player, I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. actually understand him. But I don't know. You seem quite confident, so I guess he'll be a good signing. But really, I've never watched him.
Well, you never know. You do never know. And I could, see, as I said before, we've seen a lot of people with a lot of pace and a lot of this come to the Prem and they haven't got it. Look at Werner, perfect example. A lot of pace, a lot of, aggressiveness against defences. Very athletic player, but not good enough for the Prem. Straight away, at least. It takes some time to adjust, and that's why I think it is good to have Vardy there for him. He's got that time to adjust. He's not going to be thrown straight in like Werner was. So I think it'll definitely benefit him in some way.
Yeah.
Right, so I think we're moving on to my bargains now. I think, again, I think we've all picked something different. So that's my first one. I don't know if you saw it, this one went under the radar, and I saw it, and I thought, great deal. Andre Silva at RB Leipzig from Frankfurt, 20 million. I think that's a fantastic deal. I don't know how much he's followed the Bundesliga last season. I watched a little bit, and he was the second top scorer. Only person outscored him in the Bundesliga last season was obviously Lewandowski. That's going to happen. In 32 Bundesliga games, 28 goals. What more can you ask? And that's just Bundesliga. That's not any other competition. That's just Bundesliga. And 20 million for a striker who's getting 28 goals. Ridiculous. We talk about Lukaku. We talk about all these other strikers going for lots of money. Even Daka was 23 million, and he's playing in the Austrian league. And we've got a striker here scoring 28 goals in a top league, and it's not even the first time he scored plenty of goals the season before as well. Going for 20 million, and he's only 25 years old. Ridiculously good bargain for Leipzig there. And on top of all this as well, he's shown he can be world class. You know what I mean? He was at Porto, Milan, and yeah, he struggled at Milan, but he brought it back. And he's a fantastic player. And I say 20 million for a player who I think, personally, in my opinion, can be world class, and has scored 28 goals in that league before. It's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I did seem like good value. £20 million for a player to obviously scored 28 goals in the same league last season. Obviously, I don't watch Frankfurt much. I don't know how to play, but yeah, I don't even know the strikers. If they need a new striker, then obviously that's a good choice to go for. In terms of obviously in the Bundesliga themselves, that's you taking a good strike off another opposition team that finishes around about the same area as you. So yeah, I think it's a good deal. We'll see how Andre Silva gets on, but he is quite a promising player. But his problem is it's just a one Bundesliga team. I know it's not really an exciting sort of transfer, but yeah, good transfer though. So, yeah, I could say I'm doing well, but again, no, I'm not really a big Andre Silva fan. Like I can't give you all the stats of him.
Yeah. Right, what are you thinking then, Mil?
I'm agreeing with Adam. I can't really say I know much about him, but based on what you've said, it sounds like a good transfer. I mean, 20 million for a player. What was it? 28 goals. You said?
28 goals in 32 games last season.
For that sort of record, you've got to hope 20 million will be a good deal. The only thing I can say is, I don't know. I don't know enough to say.
Well, the only thing I mean, I'll give the counter argument for you. The counter argument is that when he played for Milan, he wasn't great. It was only 3 goals in one season in Serie A, and he wasn't impressive. But he was still very young at the time.
And when did he play for Milan? What season was he?
Oh, it's a couple seasons ago now. Basically, he got loaned out to Frankfurt. They signed him for 2 million, and then sold him straight on for 20 million. So they made 10 times their profit, but that's still a bargain for how I was buying them. Yeah.
So he's only Frankfurt for one season. Oh, sorry.
Maybe 2 seasons. I think 2 seasons at Frankfurt. He played for Milan a couple seasons ago.
I don't know. It seems a bit weird. Like, why would you just shoot a playoff shooter like that? Like, I don't know. You might have just had like a really good season. Maybe they all not.
Oh, no, he did. Yeah. Well, that was surprising.
I'd say. But I don't know why they would send another Bundesliga team after 2 seasons at the club. Like, I don't know. It feels a bit off the.
I know it was a bit odd deal. The sign of 2.5 million, sold him straight on for 20, straight away. It was a bit like that who went on loan somewhere last season, and they make loan permanent. Romero, that's it, Christian Romero, who Atlanta made his deal permanent from Juventus, and sold him straight on to Spurs for 50 million. Similar kind of thing. He's been at the club a while, but you make it permanent and then sell him straight on. But it's still good business, in my opinion. I'll go to one you might know a bit more. You'll have heard of this player, hopefully. I've not gone for too many obscure ones. It's just, deals I think are good. And this one is still the Premier League, at least. Milo Rashka from Werder Bremen to Norwich. I think that's a fantastic deal. Again, 9.4 million For me, when I look at these transfers, it's the value for money. Especially for lower league clubs, 9.4 million for that player is ridiculously good. You know, for me, Buendia replacement. Last season he didn't do great in the Bundesliga, but the Bremen side did get relegated. And Werder Bremen themselves have been struggling for a while, so I don't think that's on him. But in the season before, he got 8 goals and 5 assists in a team that was struggling. And the season before that, 9 goals and 5 assists, and he can play anywhere across the front three. He's immensely creative, and it's the price which really gets me on this one because you're talking. I don't know if you remember two seasons ago, you were having people being quoted at 30, 40, 50 million for this player, and Norwich City picked him up for 9.4 million. To me, that's a ridiculously good deal. Norwich took advantage of Bremen's position. They got relegated. They need money. So I think they've also signed Josh Sargent. You might have heard him, the USA international. They signed him as well from there. I think it's them signed him. And he was as well like 6-7 million. It's a no-brainer because even if they don't play well for you, you sell them on for probably double the value. So he can't complain. And he is only 25 and he's very versatile. So I want to see what you think about him going to Norwich.
The only thing I find with Norwich is yes, he's a good signing, but they get relegated and they sell him at the end of the season. It's just how it goes. He'll not be here on one season, unfortunately for them. But yeah, as an actual sign himself, of course, Ben Year's replacement. He's a good replacement for £9 million. Remember, I looked at my phone when he first signed. I was like, whoa, what a sign that is. But yeah, again with Norwich, though, like, they're going to get relegated, and that's going to be one player they're going to have to get off straight away. So he's not going to be a loyal player, I'd say, but he'll be someone out to try and keep them up. But it doesn't matter how many decent signings they're going to make, they're always going to get relegated, in my opinion, because that's just the sort of side that they are. But in terms of them trying their best to stay up, I think they've got probably the best chance they've had in the last few times to go promoted.
Do you know what? I agree. I was going to mention that. I very much agree with that.
I watched the match against Newcastle on Sunday, I think it was, and they were just absolutely rubbish. I know it was only a pre-season game, but still, like I got absolutely no confidence in them staying up whatsoever. So yeah, I think they'll get so on, but
I don't think they'll stay up. I agree. I don't think they'll stay up, but I do think that it'll be something like last time where they'll go down, but go down with their heads held up high. Because I think that's for them. It's a decent little squad. Billy Gilmore, I think he'll get plenty of game time, and it's good for Chelsea, good for Norwich. I think he'll be a good player for them. Fingers crossed. You look at Josh Sargent, who've just signed. He's young, he's promising. He could easily turn it on. Rashka, again, promising player. They signed Lise Malou from Nice, 5.4 million, which is a bargain as well. They've got a lot of here and there, nice little transfers. Nice little transfers. And they've got a decent little squad, a couple of players who could play well for them. And I think if they do stay up, I'd be pleasantly surprised, but not as surprised as like last time they were in the Prem. Especially Todd Cantwell stays, which I don't think he will. I feel like you end up leaving, especially with the two signings they've got with Josh Sargent and Rashika, who can play out wide, like creative second striker, winger types. I think they'll probably sell on Todd Cantwell. But the amount of profit they've made this transfer window, and they've made good replacements. 40 million for Cantwell and 40 million for Buendia, and you've signed 2 good replacements for 20 million. I think they've done good business, and they might go down, but I think they'll put on a good representation of themselves.
The problem I've got with Norwich is that for some reason, I wouldn't say they're cocky, but like they play attacking-minded football where the team can't do that. Like last time in the Premier League, every single team in the bottom of the table were defensive-minded. They'll play 5-back, and they will not play football. They literally let the other team out the possession and they try and score sloppy goals. But Norwich are the complete opposite. They try to outplay opposition. They can't do it. The team is not going to fit, and the reflection this season is if they try to do the same again, then they're just going to get just bullied every single match. But whereas they go for a defensive sort of minded football this season, they might have a chance. But I don't think you change his tactics at all. I think they do the exact same thing, and it'll be 19-20 for them. And unfortunately for a new sign, like obviously the one that's came in, I just think he's going to have a hard time. I think it'll be a good sign, but at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. As I say, I think on paper they are looking okay. Like, there's little players I'm forgetting as well. Max Aarons is there. They got Tim Krul in goal. They got Angus Gunners back up as well. Like, I don't know. Just on paper, it's annoying because if they weren't Norwich, I might say they'd stay up. Do you know what I mean? If it was any other team with those players, I'll say they'd probably stay up. But because it's Norwich, no chance. What are you thinking on the signing and Norwich in general, then Millsy?
Rashika is probably a good signing, I think. In terms of money, we're no Norwich. I do agree. I think they are going to go back down, but I think it might be a case of they're just in the relegation zone rather than being at the bottom this time. So I think in that sense, you look at Damari Gray at Everton, 1.6 million. I feel like he would have more likely said, say they do go down and they had assigned him instead, he would have been more likely to stay and help them recover. Where I feel like Shika is more of just an investment for if they go down to sell on if he has a good season.
A parachute payment, yeah.
So I think he's going to be a good signing. I think he'll score 8 to 10 goals this season, which for them might be a good season, a good season for a winger. But I don't know if it's particularly what the club needs.
Yeah, I think they definitely needed more defensive reinforcements. They got Max Aarons at right back. I can't complain at that. But centre halves, because Grant Hanley's not a Premier League defender. I don't care if he's had a good season in the Championship. He's not a Premier League defender. Neither has Ben Gibson anymore. You know, you need those good Premier League centre halves, and that's what they need. He'd even be better off getting someone like, for me, Cahill, probably better than Big Gibson. And he's experienced and a leader. You know, someone like that would be better off than who they've got. But yeah, I think, as I say, I agree with Shika are good signs, but they are just going to be glorified sell-ons. You know, sell them off like 15, 16 million next summer and make their money back and more. Definitely. Right, I'll move on to my final bargain. I think this one, if you argue with this one, I'm going to be baffled. This is my easiest. Can't argue with Gianluigi Donnarumma. You know, I used to be a goalkeeper, so I had to go for it. I'm sorry, 22 years of these are the statistics I wanted to get up here. 22 years of age, and he's made 215 senior European appearances. He's won a Euros. He's 6'5", which I know sounds daft, but he's a big keeper. Yet he's stupidly good at reactions. PSG could easily get another 10 years out of this guy. No bother. At least you're talking maybe in 15 years, maybe even 20. Who knows? He could be like, you know, Buffon and just keep going. And for me, for nothing, you cannot complain at this. Like, there is not a team on planet Earth who would have said no to this guy. And PSG, I don't know how they pulled it off. The only thing that does annoy me about his transfer is I think he should have went with a better, more competitive league. Because for me, that's boring. He's just going to sit there and be a glorified, you know, goalpost, just standing there waiting for Ramos and that to make a mistake, which might not happen. That's the only thing that annoys us, because he's such a great keeper, and I want to see him being tested, and I want to see him in, you know, contention in a big league. But in terms of the business side and PSG, you cannot complain at this transfer.
Well, obviously, I mean, best goalkeeper of the Euros. Of course, he's always going to be a good sign no matter what. But even before the Euros, though, he was really good for AC Milan. I don't know what's happened down there. I don't know if he's fell out with someone, but I don't know how they let him go. 22 years of age, he was the first choice goalkeeper. I don't know what's happened with AC Milan. But in terms of going to PSG, I don't know. Obviously, it's a class signing, but like, do they really need him? I know he's a better goalkeeper than Keylor Navas, but Keylor Navas is still a really good goalkeeper in my opinion. So I don't know if PSG really needed him, but
no, not really.
And he will be someone that's obviously going to be there in the long term. But yeah, I'd like to see him elsewhere. Obviously, PSG, they're just going to walk the league this year, you'd imagine. So we'll see how things go for him, but I don't know. Obviously, he's a class signing, but really, though, I didn't think PSG needed him, to be honest.
No, I agree. They don't really need him, but it's PSG. They'll you know, for that kid in the can, he's still with a lot of notes in the back pocket. They'll just buy the whole bloody shop if they can. Do you know what I mean? They'll just do whatever they want because they've got that much money. To be fair, it's making us laugh, the whole deal with Barcelona throwing the toys at a pram and going, you can't sign Messi, we won't let you. They're like, you know, trying to get the lawyers involved because they don't want PSG to sign him. It's like, if we can't have him, no one can, and it is funny to watch, but it's also kind of a bit sad. Yeah, I agree with you. Like the whole Navas situation, allegedly there's rumours he's going to be loaned out for a season or two until Navas is done.
Right. But even not just with Keylor Navas or PSG, what was the start? They've got like 7 keepers that can play in the first team or something. Like, they've got too many goalkeepers, they don't need another keeper.
Yeah, Areola.
Oh, he was like 4th choice. I think it's a big.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Well, see, speaking of Milan as well, their replacement, Mike Mangan, he was in the France squad in the Euros. 12 million pounds, I think it was. Might even be less. Might even be less. Might have been euros. Great replacement, I think, because you look at Chelsea trying to sign him last summer, 40 million. They were getting quoted by Lille, 40 million, 30 million, and they even put a bid in of 32 million, which got rejected. So the fact that, you know, Milan picked him for 12 million, decent little thing. I don't know. He's not going to be as good as Donnarumma, let's be honest. He's just not.
I feel sorry somewhat for Navas, because I think Navas is a really good keeper. I agree that Donnarumma, like, let's be honest, he's a mint keeper. He'd be their keeper for, as you say, however many years. But I do feel sorry for Navas, and I think he deserves to play in a bigger club. And to be honest, it's the sort of player I could see Man U needing, because De Gea's getting to the point where he's a bit older and he's inconsistent. I think Navas would have been a better option for them.
No, I agree. Honestly, I totally rate Navas. I think at the moment, just being honest, pure keeping ability, Navas is so better than Donnarumma at the moment because he's just older, got that experience. But, someone like Donnarumma's not going to settle for second fiddle, and he's worth way more than Navas. So if it's then an argument between who's going, it's not going to be Donnarumma. But yeah, I see what I mean. He should be at least in, top 4 teams in the Champions League now. He's one of the best keepers in Europe, in my opinion, playing in Europe at least. Yeah, he needs to have a get himself a transfer because we've seen it happen before with him, just sitting on the bench whilst a better keeper, well, not even a better keeper, a worse keeper plays ahead of him, and you're thinking it happened at Madrid and that, and I don't want it for him again. I know what you mean. I respect him a lot as a keeper, great player. Right, I think that's us done with all the bargains. If I want to go for any honourable mentions, anyone that nearly made your list, I think we'll try and pick one each. Someone who got really close to making your bargains, because for me, I had a lot on my bargains list. It was harder to pick the busts than the bargains. So, Adam, anyone who really nearly made your list that's worth a mention?
Well, I'm going to be very biased here, but I think Joe Willock for about £20 million is an absolute bargain. The youngest player in Premier League history to score 6 times in a row, never mind 7, which he did last season. 8 goals in 15 games as a whole, I think. But I just don't get it from Arsenal. I know they need money at the minute, but it's just bad business from them because he's a player that's a future prospect. He's going to be a player in 5 years' time that has a good value. And for me, they should have put someone on. I wouldn't say a sell-on clause, but I think they should have put on sorry. I think they should have put a sell-on clause, not a buyback clause. I mean, I think if it was like a 30% sell-on clause, then I think it would be a better deal for them because if we were to sell them on, if we got relegated, for example, then that would be great money to get off for Arsenal. But really, no, they pretty much just give away he's nothing. Like he's a £20 million player that's outscored all the Arsenal midfielders combined last season. So I don't get what they're doing. Honestly, the Stan Kroenke really just baffled my head.
No, I've got to say I agree. I even put him on my fantasy team. I can't lie to this because I'm thinking, he's cheap. He's still like 6 million or something in fantasy football. And if he gets even a couple of goals in the season and it allows, frees up funds in other places in the team, he was a no-brainer for me in terms of fantasy football. But he's a great player. I agree. 20 million for him while Arsenal playing that because he's better than all their midfielders, I personally think, watching him play. He's a player that if he wasn't at Newcastle, I probably wouldn't watch him play as much. I do watch a good few Newcastle games. So yeah, he was a joy to watch, to be honest. He was. I can't argue with that one. I say another one that was so close to making the list. I had so many, like a long list of people that nearly made up my bargains, and he was very close. Got to agree with on that one. What are you thinking of Willock then, Millsy?
I just think it's a purple patch. Honestly, I don't think he's as good as everybody makes out. Don't get us wrong. When he come in, he scored a lot of goals. He did well last season, but I don't think he's technically a great midfielder. Like, I don't know. I know he's 20 million. I think the deal itself is a good deal. At his age, he will develop. But I don't know. I just think he's not much better than the options you've already got. It's just a different
scores
option.
more. Just scores more. Yeah.
I don't think he's technically any more developed than any of the other Newcastle midfielders.
I think Joe Willock's the only Newcastle midfielder that can drive with the ball. The players like Shelby don't drive the ball, they ping long passes, and who else have got? A long staff, Jack Hendrick. Newcastle do not have better options than Joe Willock. Hayden's the only midfielder I could argue that is more important than Newcastle, but could argue Willock had a purple patch, which may be true, we don't know, we'll see. But he's the only midfielder that is going to get forward the ball, and that's exactly what Newcastle need because we lack depth in the midfield. I don't think our midfielders are good enough at all. And if I could only pick one sign for this club to make, that would be the one I make.
Right. Well, I've got to say as well, I see where you come from, Kieran, because this is not a dig at Newcastle fans at all, but the point is that Newcastle fans, they don't get given a lot, unfortunately, because of their management, because of their owner. So when they get a player like Willock who scores a few goals, he's cling on to it way more than another club would, because unfortunately he's not got a lot to cheer about. And that's not your fault. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't got a lot to cheer about. So when you just get a player like Willock who scores a few goals, you're always going to love him way more than, a neutral, because you need that, you get that connection. You don't get it very often with a player at Newcastle, unfortunately, at the moment. Like, every time he's signed a player in recent history, it's went very badly for you 9 times out of 10. Apart from the likes of Wilson, I'd say your recent signings have been atrocious. You look at Fraser, he's not been great. You know, Joe Linton. I think Wilson's a great signing, no doubt about that. And Maximum, definitely going to make your money back on him, at least minimal. You'd probably sell him on for 10, 15 million more than you bought him for. And he's a good player. But you need something to cheer about, because unfortunately the style of play you have, the manager you have got, it's a lot harder to be excited.
I get what you're saying in terms of the sign. Obviously, it's our only deal so far. Like, we've got to get excited at some point. But no, I think in terms of the Newcastle sign the last few years, yes, the likes of Jamal Lewis and Fraser, Joe Linton, obviously big sort of insights. But I think in the last 5-6 years or so, I think 90% of Newcastle signs have been really good deals. Maybe not in terms of actual good footballers, but the money we spent on those particular players, I think, have always been good. I think, obviously, for example, we've got Doro in the South, Nottingham Forest, for 500 grand to repair with him. And obviously, 2 players that have got into the first team in the squad. And in terms of Newcastle signs as a whole, I think we are good at making business. It's just we don't make enough business, and that's a problem with Newcastle. We don't spend enough. We always get the correct players in, but we don't spend the extra. We don't get the requirement for Newcastle. Like, we could get 2 or 3 players in this window, but we'll be missing it back up strike or right back. We'll always be missing the area which we need in. That's always going to be a problem, mate, Ash, because he doesn't want to spend.
My issue with Newcastle is I think he's always have a very average team. Like, he's just very average. He's always had 1 or 2 players who are good, always, but he's never push on, as you say. He's just replaced those same couple of players. Every few seasons, you'll have a decent striker who he's then that usually sell on for more, or you'll have a decent midfielder who he's then sell on for more. Or do you know what I mean? Like, you don't, and then you just replace him with another good player. You never keep, instead of improving your team, you just sell that player on for more money and then replace him, and then sell him on and replace him. You don't actually constantly improve your squad. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly what that. You just described how bad Mike Ashley is.
Yeah, that's on Ashley. That's not on the club itself. That's on Ashley. But I think that's the issue. And so when you get a player like Willett coming along, it's something to cheer about. But I will agree, definitely a bargain in my opinion. What were you saying then, Nils? On your honourable mention, your extra?
The only reason I didn't put it forward is because it's not a new transfer. It was Cavani signing a new 1-year deal. Because you've seen at the start of, at the end of last season, Cavani became the main striker. And I think Cavani epitomises everything that Man U need at the minute. He's not just a hold-up player, a target man. He's a leader. And I've seen multiple clips where he's been describing to Greenwood where to be on the pitch, where to stand, how to beat a player. I feel like Greenwood's development and Rashford's development.
I was going to say Rashford as well, yeah.
Is going to be benefited by having someone like Cavani around. But at the same time, I do expect him to score in the region of 15 goals next season. I think he's going to have a really good season.
No, Cavani, when he first signed, I was very, very sceptical. I'll happily admit that. I was massive sceptical on Cavani. I was like, oh, he's old, he's blah, blah, blah. He's been playing in France. He's probably not going to be any good. You never know with those kind of players, but he's definitely proved me wrong. And as you say, it's not necessarily the stuff he does just on the pitch. It's in training that I've seen it myself. He's an experienced player and he brings them on leaps and bounds. And he's definitely worth it, especially if he gets 15 goals next season. I'll agree on that.
I think 15 goals is a bit too steep for someone of Cavani's age. Because I don't think Man U will get Champions League this year. I think they'll get around the 16 and go out straight away. So I don't think Cavani's going to get much of an opportunity to score 15 goals. He'll play probably a lot of Premier League games and obviously some cup games as well. But without the Europa League this season, he'll just not get as many goals. Because I don't think Man U will be in the Europa League.
I don't know. I think the Champions League this year is open for me, especially with PSG signing Messi. But then PSG's history in the tournament, I don't know this year with the Champions League because I know City are going to want it, PSG are going to want it. I think Bayern will be back in the running with Nagelsmann as manager. I know. What was your call, Kieran, again with the final?
There's a reason I mentioned Cavani. You've heard it here first. Manchester United will win the Champions League this season.
Big shout. I don't agree with it personally. I don't agree with it.
You make this claim.
What?
When did you actually make this claim? Like, do you still believe that now?
I made this claim last week sometime.
Last week, yeah, you made a big claim in the chat. It's a big claim. It's a bold one. I'm not going to back up on that one because I just don't feel like the United are ready yet to win the Champions League. Then again, Chelsea, prime example. I would never have put Chelsea to win the Champions League last year, but they did. So you never know. I
think the Spanish team's completely out of this year. I don't think Barcelona.
Oh, I agree. Agree on that one.
But PSG, I mean, absolutely flash you in my opinion. Like at PSG seems to be getting all over Man U, and I think we're obviously Messi in the team now. He's just going to be a game changer.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll come to my final mention before trying to wrap it up because it's been hour 40 now, and that nice bit of time. I think you were my honorable mention. I've got a massive list. One, I'll mention this quick one, and this one's on Ryan Bertrand. I think he fits Leicester perfectly for a free transfer. I think he's great, especially with their injuries. Now they've got that squad depth that they need. With James Justin, Castagna, and Bertrand as your fullbacks, and Pereira, that's ridiculously good depth. That's some of the best fullback depth in the league. So I think that's just a sign that just pushes them on. And for me, they're definitely going to get Champions League next year if they play the way they're playing. So that was a sign for them. Well, for Champions League, you want Champions League spots, you need depth, and Bertrand gives them that extra depth. And you add in that Daka, Sumari, I think they're definitely going to push for it. But the one I want to mention is, do you know what? Junior Firpo for Leeds United. I think he was 14 million. Great deal, great player. I think he fits Bielsa to a T. He's an all-rounder. He's fast. He's technical. He's a great defender. I think I won't be surprised if next season we see him playing everywhere. I know he's a left back by trade, but knowing Bielsa, he'd be playing left wing, CDM. He'd be all over the shop because that's how Bielsa plays. And I think Firpo suits that Bielsa style. And the left back spot in the Leeds team's now open with Alioski going, and Firpo's an improvement. He's fast. He's got all that attributes that Alioski's got, and he's younger, and he's technically better. And I just think it's a great signing by Leeds.
Yeah, I agree. I think Barcelona and Leeds, in terms of how they attack the ball, I think they're quite similar. I think both of them are very aggressive. They're always keep the whole, always go for 90 minutes long. But I don't know how the Premier League's going to be for him. He's still quite a young player. It'll take him a little while to settle in, but I think he will be a good player for the long run for Leeds.
What are you thinking on Firpo then?
I don't know enough on him. I know Leeds and Bielsa tend to develop players, so I can see it being a good education for him. But whether he's what Leeds need, I don't know enough about him to say that.
Right, I think I'll be off wrapping it up there. Hopefully we should find out a name for this podcast, a name for the channel by the time this is uploaded. I'll stick everyone's Twitters in the link, including hopefully the channel Twitter, which we should have by then. If everything goes to plan. I know Adam's got a nice little Twitter following. You're a football Twitter, so I'm sure he'll appreciate any of your tweets. Nice to know everyone's opinions as well on some of our opinions, some of the busts and bargains. Who are yours? Put your free in the comments if you're interested in getting involved in the conversation. Hope you all enjoyed, and hopefully we'll see you in the future. Bye.